Hey, I want to talk about AI today. Now, everybody that I know of out there in the blogosphere is talking about AI. How do I use AI to do this? How do I do marketing? How do I do leadership? And I think there's an amazing amount of applications for AI. Actually, I'm a hardcore AI enthusiast. I think it's maybe more important than fire. And that's not a joke. Like, seriously, it's an amazing technology. But here is why I'm most excited about AI. And it has nothing to do with AI. This has to do with the mirror that AI gives you as a leader. So here on the Drew Sutton Leadership Show, we're going to talk about AI, you, and the mirror that it provides. Now, in the Japanese culture, there is this really cool idea. There is the sword, the gem, and the mirror. The sword, of course, is warfare or your ability to project force and your political will upon others. The gem, of course, is money or treasure. But the most revered characteristic is not the sword or the gem. It is actually the mirror, the ability to look at yourself and to see where you're at. Because your physical circumstances, and there are hiccups, piece on that, but your physical circumstances in a large degree are a reflection of how you and your character and your circumstances and your net worth and your problem solving skills have interacted with the world around you. Now, as a leader, you need to engage that statement. If you just like when I said that, you were like, "Ooh, I don't like that." Maybe we should have a chat. The ability for you to look at the reality, the objective reality that is your world, and then mold it and move forward, that's leadership. That's influence. That is success. And I'm not saying you're always going to have success. Certainly, trials are the things that grow us, right? But the job is to become bigger, not to have your problems get smaller. Um, but enough of that. Let's talk about AI and the magic moment that AI gives us. I remember the very first time I was introduced to AI. This is probably February of 2023. I instantly grasped this and I said, this is the reason, this is the most important way you can use AI. AI is an employee, maybe the most intelligent employee you could ever hire, who will do exactly what you say, exactly with the way you tell them to do it. And then the result you get back tells you how good of a leader you are. I'm going to say that again. What if AI was a mirror for your leadership? What if when you are frustrated with your team, and we've all been there. Uh, I was in the airport. I was on a business trip once, and I went to the little shoe shiny place. So I'm like sitting up there reading the newspaper, and the guy's shining my shoes. And it had been a very rough week, and I think it was $20 to shine the shoes. And the guy was amazing. We had a great conversation. We talked some finance. We talked some business. We talked current events. He's like rubbing the shoe down, like my shoes looked amazing. I gave the guy a $20 tip because I said, "You're the first guy all week that's done what I asked them to do." Now, I think that we all know what I'm talking about there. When you've had one of those weeks where nobody does what you want them to do. What if that week was not your employee's fault, wasn't your team's fault? What if it was your fault? What if it revealed something about you as a leader that we can learn from now with AI? So here's what I mean. AI, the first thing you do when you get into AI, and this is going to be a whole series, we're going to talk practical AI, the way you can use AI to become a better leader today. Um, the first thing you do in a good prompt is you say, take on the persona of. And we're going to talk about this in another video. But what you're doing is you're curating the massive data set that is the large language model. And you're saying, when you interpret this data, I want you to have this mindset. I want to get the information I want out of you is the sort of things that an expert marketer might give me, or a coder, or a master architect, or a systems engineer, or a husband. I fed all of my wife's preferences into AI once and said, "Hey, you're my romance advisor. This is my wife. I want to make sure that I'm connecting with her as best that I can. So I'm going to ask you for advice every time I think about doing something for my wife." So anyway, take on a persona and then you give them a task. So take on a persona, do this task. The output needs to look this way. When you take the time to craft a really good prompt, you get a decent answer. It's actually a profound answer in a lot of ways. In fact, the more and more I use AI and the better I get at prompting, the better answer I get. But it's never right the first time. It's always a curated data set. In other words, racked and stacked. The program said, what do I think Drew is asking me to do? And then it goes and it grabs a bunch of data and it says, hey, is this what you wanted? And then it curates that in a very intelligent way. Like when you read the output that comes back from ChatGPT, it's really decent copy. It's not the greatest copy, but it's pretty good copy. And if you just read it that way, you'd say, oh, this is good enough. I guarantee you that first pass is not going to be good enough to go win you business. You're going to have to work with that content. But isn't that the same experience that we have when we have an employee? We tell the employee, hey, go do this financial analysis. Hey, write this code base. Hey, do this engineering drawing. Hey, reply to this email for me. We are very lazy prompters when it comes to our employees. And then our employees, what they give us back isn't on target with what was in our head. Isn't that our fault? I don't think it's our employees' fault. I think that when I was frustrated sitting on that shoe shining booth, mad at my team, what I was really saying is, why can't my team understand me? And I was not taking the ownership of saying, I'm a bad prompter. I have not clearly enunciated to my team what I want. Now, sometimes you can't just go around telling our team exactly what to do every moment of the day. That's called micromanagement. It doesn't work in AI. It doesn't work as a leader. It doesn't work for a team. We've all had that boss. That's not what I'm suggesting. But what I am suggesting is over time, you curate the persona of the people, curate the persona of your employees so that they understand, hey, when I say go write this business analysis, take on the persona of an expert business analyst. Give me a 3-page report. Have these items in it. Give me references to your links. Explain your logic from point A to point B to point C. Isn't that the sort of prompt we might give ChatGPT? And in fact, we might say that's too much of a prompt for ChatGPT. So take on the persona of a business analyst, reference this report, do it this way, first pass. And then we scan what ChatGPT says, and then we go on and we try to upgrade that a little bit, right? We're very patient with AI because we know it doesn't understand what's in our brain. But when we take Sarah, who's been an amazing employee for the last 8 years, and we're like, hey, Sarah, can you do that analysis for me? And she doesn't give us exactly what we want in the first moment without any effort on our part. What do we say? Do we immediately look at the mirror and say, maybe I made a bad prompt? Or do we say, what's wrong with Sarah? Sarah just can't get it. And then mentally we tag Sarah as somebody that is not a great employee or needs more development. I think that's the proper way to phrase that, right? That's a great disservice to Sarah because she took a very poorly written prompt and executed a pretty high level maneuver. And then we are mad at her because we didn't have the clarity to think through what we actually wanted. So the reason I'm so excited about AI, the reason I think it's maybe the most important thing that's ever happened to leadership is not because of its calculation capacities. It's not because of its ability to be the calculator of English. All those things are important. It's because it's the only mirror we as leaders have ever been given that is truly honest. See, when you tell Darren, hey, go do this thing, and then Darren goes and does it, and he's confused and he like wrestles all night and he puts something together that's actually pretty amazing, quite frankly. And then we give him crap back. Darren doesn't give us feedback. Darren goes home and thinks my boss is a jerk. Maybe I'm an idiot. Darren thinks maybe his self is an idiot. We are damaging people's souls because we are bad prompt engineers. And AI gives us the opportunity to see what it's like to have us for a boss. And if you're willing, if you're brave enough, and that's my challenge, are you brave enough to use AI as a mirror to see if you're a great boss? Maybe you're not the best. And if you're not the best, you're in a great spot because welcome to the club. That's why we do leadership training. We all need to level up our game. Now, you don't have to. You also don't have to be a world-class boss. You also don't have to be a world-class influencer who makes their dent on the world and blesses those underneath you. That's not a requirement. You don't have to do that. But you do, because of AI, now have to get honest with yourself and find out just how good of a boss are you? Or do you need some help on your prompting? All right. More later.